How many times can a man die before his heart actually stops beating? Is the darkness of the earth a physical place, or a state of the soul that never truly leaves the lungs? Could you recognize the scent of your own survival if it was masked by the thick, metallic stench of anthracite and damp slate? What if the sun was no longer right, but a luxury traded for the survival of a family you only see by the flickering light of a tallow candle? Do you believe that progress is built on grand ideas, or is it actually forged in the silence, crushing weight of a mile of rock pressing down on a human spine? You likely imagine the Industrial Revolution as a series of grand inventions and puffing steam engines, but the truth is far more visceral, cold and claustrophobic than any textbook dare describe. The dawn in Pennsylvania does not come with the soft chirping of birds or the gentle transition of light, but with the violent, soul-shattering shriek of the colliery whistle. It is 4:30 a.m. in the year 1890, and the vibration of that iron scream rattles the thin wooden walls of your patch house, vibrating through your teeth and into your very marrow. You roll out of a thin mattress shared with 3 brothers, your boots already stiff with the dried orange mud of the cum banks. The air inside the shack is biting, a precursor to the damp chill that awaits you below. You don't speak. There is no energy for pleasantries when the lungs are already tight. You swallow a piece of dry bread and a sip of lukewarm coffee, the taste of chicory lingering like a bitter promise on your tongue. As you step outside, the atmosphere is a bruised purple, thick with the soot of 1,000 chimneys that never quite settles. You join the river of ghosts, a silent procession of men and boys trudging toward the looming silhouette of the breaker house. The ground beneath your feet is not earth, but a compacted layer of coal dust and discarded shale, a black crust that has replaced the natural world. You feel the rhythmic thud of the hoisting engine, a mechanical heartbeat that governs every life in this valley. As you approach the shaft, the temperature drops. A sudden draft of sour subterranean air hits your face, carrying the scent of ancient swamps and rotting timber. You step into the iron cage. It is a rusted skeletal box that feels far too fragile for the task at hand. There are 12 of you crammed inside, shoulders touching, the heat of human breath clashing with the icy moisture dripping from the shaft walls. The cage jerks. Your stomach rises into your throat as the surface world vanishes in a heartbeat. The light of the morning is swallowed by a vertical tunnel of wet stone. Down you go, 200, 500, 1,000 feet into the gullet of the mountain. The sound is a chaotic symphony of rattling chains, the rush of air, and the distant, muffled boom of blasting powder echoing from the deep veins. Your ears pop painfully. The pressure changes, becoming a physical weight against your eardrums. When the cage finally hits the bottom with a bone-jarring thud, the world you knew is gone. Here, time does not exist. There is only the flicker of the oil lamp hooked to your cap, casting long, dancing shadows against the jagged ribs of the gangway. The walls bleed. Water tinted red with iron ore trickles down the anthracite, sounding like a rhythmic ticking clock, counting down the hours of your shift. You feel the grit between your teeth almost instantly. Every inhalation is a conscious choice, a trade-off between oxygen and the fine, invisible powder that will eventually turn your inner tissues into a map of black scars. You are no longer a citizen, a father, or a son. You are a biological component in a vast, subterranean machine designed to feed the insatiable hunger of a growing nation. The transition is complete. The sun is a memory, and the black hell is your reality. To understand the true cost of the light in our homes today, one must walk these tunnels and feel the crushing silence of the deep. This is not just history. It is the raw, unvarnished story of human endurance against the very foundations of the world. Check if you are already subscribed to this channel, as here we delve into the depths of the narratives that shaped humanity, revealing the hidden gears of our existence that conventional history often prefers to ignore under the glow of progress. You now walk through the main tunnel, the main drift. The ceiling is low, forcing you to bow your head in a gesture of involuntary submission to the weight of the earth. Your hands touch the damp wood of the shoring, feeling the vibration of the mountain as it creaks and groans under the tectonic tension. The sound of mule hooves echoes ahead, a heavy and tired rhythm of animals that, like many men, were born and will die without ever seeing the light of day again. The smell of animal excrement mixes with the acrid odor of burning gunpowder and the persistent mold of deco wood. Imposition. Each step forward is a deeper foray into the unknown, where safety is an illusion held together by pine beams that could give way at any moment. You notice the glassy shine of the charcoal walls, a substance that shines like onyx in the light of your lamp, but has the hardness of diamond and the fragility of glass. The density of the environment is almost tactile, as if the air itself had become solid and resistant to your movements. The silence, when it occurs between the passing of the cars, is absolute and terrifying, a sonic vacuum that amplifies the sound of your own heartbeat. You realize that survival here depends not on brute strength, but on a keen awareness of every crack in the rock, every shift in the air current, every fluctuation in the flame of your lamp. The organization of this subterranean chaos is a marvel of brutal and desperate engineering. Iron rails cut through the black mud floor, guiding the wagons loaded with the fuel that moves empires overhead. Each man has his role. Each movement is choreographed by the need for maximum efficiency under extreme risk. The contrast between the immensity of the industry and the smallness of his life becomes crystal clear. You are a cog, but without that cog, the clock of civilization stops. Sweat begins to run down your back, even in the humid cold of the mine, the result of physical effort and constant tension. The journey has only just begun, and the next few hours will test not just your muscles, but the very fiber of your sanity as you become an integral part of the carbon vein that sustains the modern world. The vertical descent was only the threshold of your confinement, for the surface world you return to after the shift is merely another layer of the same industrial cage. Imagine an entire town owned by a single ledger, where the very dirt beneath your fingernails belongs to the board of directors in a distant Philadelphia office. This is the Patch House reality, a meticulously designed architecture of subsistence where every window, every porch, and every floorboard is a calculation of minimum investment for maximum labor extraction. You walk down a street that has no name, only a number, lined with identical grey dwellings that lean against each other like weary soldiers. The wood is unpainted, weathered by the acidic rain and the perpetual fall of coal soot until the grain of the timber is choked with black carbon. There is no grass here, only the sharp, unstable slope of the culm bank, the towering mountain of waste coal and slate that looms over your home like a silent, suffocating god. Inside your house, the walls are papered with old newspapers to keep out the draft, a collage of headlines from a world you will never visit. The air smells of boiled cabbage, wet wool, and the metallic tang of the wash basin, where your wife attempts to scrub the anthracite from your skin, a task as endless as the mining itself. You realize that your physical exhaustion is not the only weight you carry. It is the structural invisibility of your existence. The company owns the house, the water pump, and the very air you breathe through the smoke of the colliery. But the true mastery of this architecture lies in the script. You are paid in colorful pieces of paper or metal coins minted by the mining company, worthless 10 miles down the road, but the only currency accepted at the company store. You stand before the counter of that store, a cavernous building filled with the necessities of life: flour, lard, boots, and blasting powder. The prices are skewed, a silent tax on your survival that ensures the wages paid to you in the morning find their way back to the company vaults by nightfall. It is a closed circuit of economic predestination. You look at the ledger and see that despite 14 hours in the dark, you owe more for your tools and your income than you earned in the seam. The stability of your family rests on a knife's edge of debt, a fragility that is reinforced by the sight of the company police patrolling the muddy lanes. They are the enforcers of this industrial peace, ensuring that the rhythm of extraction is never interrupted by the friction of human grief. You watch your children playing in the shadows of the breaker house, their small hands already adept at sorting slate from coal, their futures mapped out by the same rails that carry the anthracite to the coast. There is a brutal efficiency to this social design. It provides just enough to keep the heart beating, but never enough to allow the soul to wander. The town is not a community in the traditional sense, but a biological processing plant where human lives are converted into British thermal units. You feel the isolation of the Patch, a geographical and social island cut off from the rising prosperity of the Gilded Age. While mansions rise in New York, you are calculating if you can afford a new pair of leather gloves to protect your bleeding palms. This is the architecture of subsistence, a world where you are a tenant of your own life, perpetually renting the right to exist from those who own the minerals beneath your feet. The contrast is staggering between the abundance of the energy you produce and the scarcity of the comfort you receive. Every nail in your shack is a testament to the fact that you are an interchangeable part in a large, soot-stained machine. As you sit on your porch in the fading light, watching the soot settle like black snow on the windowsills, the realization hits you that the mine doesn't end at the shaft opening. The mine is the town is the house, and the house is the cage. Comment now on the phrase, "Coal runs through my veins and debt consumes my soul," as this is the only absolute truth for those who live under the shadow of Pennsylvania's coal mines. The organization of physical space reflects the hierarchy of power. The overseers' homes are on high ground, out of direct reach of the acidic smoke, while the miners' tenements huddle in the humid valleys, where the fog and smog coalesce into a toxic shroud. You observe the cold precision with which each resource is controlled. Water from the common tap is a privilege, not a right, and the coal that heats your stove is purchased from the very company that you help to make rich. There is no room for waste, nor for beauty. The aesthetics of the Industrial Revolution are the aesthetics of naked utility. The rhythm of your movements at home is an extension of the rhythm in the mine. You save energy, you save words, you save hope. Yet even in this structural desolation, there is a density of spirit. The voices of neighbors, speaking a mix of Polish, Welsh, and Italian, create a tapestry of sound that defies the monotony of grey. Survival is an act of collective resistance, even if the terms of that survival are dictated by a corporation's financial statement. Your job security depends on your health, and your health is the most fragile resource of all. You know that a broken lung or a crushed leg means immediate eviction, turning your family into wanderers in the cold mountain. This constant insecurity is the engine that keeps production at record levels. It is a bitter lesson in the nature of progress. For the world to shine with electric light and the steel forges to never grow cold, thousands of lives must be contained in this architecture of shadows and debt. You look at your hands, the charcoal blue scars beneath your skin, acting like tattoos from an industrial slavery that time won't erase. The structure of the system is as solid as mountain granite and as merciless as a Pennsylvania winter. Here man is not the master of the tool. He is the tool that wears out until it is discarded by a new wave of immigrants, hungry for an opportunity that, in fact, is a perfectly constructed trap. The cycle closes, night falls on Patch, and you know that tomorrow the colliery whistle will be the only command that matters, restarting the process of converting your sweat into capital for others. The absolute silence of the earth is a lie told to those who remain on the surface. For inside the coal vein, the world screams with the sound of tectonic tension. You are now miles from the shaft, crouched in a space so narrow that the jagged ceiling of slate brushes against your shoulder blades with every shallow breath. This is the pulse of the vein, the epicenter of the industrial machine where the abstract concept of progress meets the concrete reality of physical destruction. You hold the heavy iron drill against the face of the anthracite, the cold vibration of the metal traveling through your arms and settling in your joints like a permanent ache. Every inch you gain into the rock is a victory won against millions of years of geological compression. The work is rhythmic, brutal, and primitive. You strike the drill with a sledgehammer, rotating it a fraction of a degree, then striking again, your sweat mixing with the fine black powder to create a slick obsidian paste that coats your eyes. The air here is different. It is thick, stagnant, and carries the weight of the entire mountain. You learn to listen to the mountain talk, the subtle pips and cracks of the wooden props that hold back thousands of tons of overhead debris. If the props moan, you continue. If they go silent, you run. But there is a threat far more insidious than the collapsing roof, a phantom that has no scent and no color. It is the methane, the fire damp that seeps from the porous coal like a ghost from a tomb. You watch the flame of your safety lamp with an intensity that borders on religious devotion. If the flame turns blue or begins to pull upward into a long, ghostly spire, you know the silent killer is among you. A single spark from a pickaxe against a stray piece of pyrite could turn this tunnel into a localized sun, incinerating everything in a fraction of a second. You feel the fragility of your own rib cage, a thin cage of bone and skin tasked with resisting the atmospheric pressure of an underground furnace. The contrast is staggering. The massive steam engines on the surface, capable of hauling thousands of tons, rely entirely on the precision of your trembling hands, placing a stick of dynamite into a hand-drilled hole. You wrap the blasting powder in waxed paper, your fingers stained so deeply that the blackness seems to have become part of your DNA. The tension in the air is palpable as you prepare the fuse. At this moment, the global economy, the soaring stocks in New York, and the heat in the mansions of Newport all depend on your ability to not make a mistake. You are the conductor of a dangerous symphony of fire and stone. As the fuse sputters, you retreat behind a pillar of coal, pressing your body against the cold wetness of the floor. The explosion is not just a sound, it is a physical blow to the chest, a displacement of air that sucks the breath from your lungs and replaces it with a swirling vortex of dust and sulfur. Leave a like now if you can feel the tension of this rarefied air, for it is through your recognition that we honor the memory of those whose lives were the literal fuel for the world we live in today. The silence that follows the explosion is the most dangerous moment of all. You emerge from the shadow, the light from your lamp struggling to cut through the opaque curtain of dust. The ceiling was shaken, and bits of dragon's breath, the residual gas, may be concentrated in pockets above his head. The mine's functionality depends on this incessant cycle of destruction and removal. You begin loading loose coal into the wagons, a job that requires strength that your body, fueled by little more than bread and coffee, can barely provide. Each loaded shovel is a tribute to the carbon god. You watch the breaker boys up there, knowing that many of them will soon be down here, replacing men whose lungs gave out before their arms. The mine's stability is an illusion maintained by a rigorous and merciless organization. There is no room for individual error, as the failure of one is the death sentence for all. You feel the density of the environment change as the humidity increases. The acidic water begins to rise up to your ankles, forcing the pumps to work at the limit of their capacity. The pace of work is dictated by the flow of wagons, a continuous current that cannot stop, under penalty of fines that would consume what remains of your salary. The symbolic elevation of this effort is tragic. You are excavating the geological past to illuminate the technological future, but for you, the present is just an endless tunnel of shadows and calculated risks. With every beat of your heart, you feel the pulse of the earth itself, a vast, indifferent entity that seems to protest your intrusion. Human fragility is exposed in every clumsy movement, in every cough that echoes through the galleries. You're not a hero of an epic story, but a biological tool that wears out in silence. The atmosphere is charged with static electricity and the constant fear of a collapse. The contrast between the safety of cities and the risk of this underground border reveals the hypocrisy of progress. You continue because the alternative is starvation. You drill because the alternative is eviction. Coal is the blood of the nation, and you are the vein that carries it, whatever the cost. The dust settles in your lungs like a layer of black velvet, robbing you of your ability to breathe deeply, but never stealing your determination to finish your shift. With each explosion, the world's geography changes, and with it, its own biology changes, adapting to an environment that was never meant to be inhabited by living beings. The pulse of the vein is your own pulse, quickened by fear and adrenaline, a rhythm that will only stop when the last carriage is lifted, and you can, for a brief moment, believe that you have survived another day in the heart of darkness. The light of your lamp wavers, a reminder that even the most advanced technology of your age is powerless in the face of the immensity of the abyss you choose to challenge every morning. The shift finally ends, not with a sunset you can see, but with another mechanical shriek that signals your release from the belly of the earth. You emerge from the cage back into the Pennsylvania evening, but the world has changed color while you were gone. The air on the surface, which you dream of all day, now feels strangely thin and unsatisfying compared to the dense, pressurized atmosphere of the mine. Your skin is no longer your own. It is coated in a layer of anthracite dust so fine that it has filled every pore, every wrinkle, and every microscopic scratch on your hands. You head toward the communal washhouse, but you already know the truth that every miner carries. The soot never truly leaves. It becomes a permanent shadow around your eyes, a black tattoo under your fingernails, and a heavy velvet lining inside your chest. As you walk back to the patch house, your boots heavy with the weight of the day's fatigue, you see the long lines of coal cars snaking away toward the horizon. They are headed to the great furnaces of Pittsburgh, the skyscrapers of Chicago, and the steamships of New York. In this moment, the physical effort of your last 14 hours transcends the mud and the pain. You are the silent architect of an empire. Every spark of light in a distant city, every mile of railroad track laid across the West, and every steel beam reaching for the clouds is a manifestation of the carbon you wrenched from the dark. This is the legacy of carbon, a trade of human vitality for the acceleration of a civilization. You realize that the United States is not being built by politicians or bankers, but by the slow, rhythmic destruction of the bodies of men like you. Share this video with someone who needs to understand the true cost of modern comfort, as every spark of energy we use today was born from the sacrifice and dust of those who came before us. The fragility of your life is the foundation of the stability of a growing superpower. Upon arriving home, the silence of the night is only interrupted by the sound of persistent coughing that echoes through the other houses in the village. A reminder that coal claims its toll long after the shift ends. You sit at the table, and for a brief moment the perspective rises from the concrete to the philosophical. What does it mean to be the fuel of an era? The contrast between your personal darkness and the light you send out into the world is the central contradiction of industrial existence. You are a soot-covered ghost, but without your work, the engine of progress would die in a cold gasp. The social organization that keeps you stuck in debt is the same one that allows the nation to dream of infinity. You look at your sleeping children and wonder if they too will be devoured by vain, or if the carbon you extract today will serve to forge a different path for them. The density of the home environment, though poor, is filled with a quiet dignity that economic statistics can never capture. The transition from physical survival to historical significance occurs in the silence between your last breath of the day and your first breath of the next. The legacy you leave is not in marble monuments, but in the heat that warms millions of homes, and in the force that moves the gears of time. You are the anonymous worker of the Industrial Revolution, the faceless hero of an underground journey that defined the destiny of a continent. Night falls over Pennsylvania, hiding the scars of the land and the exhaustion of men. But the glow of coal burning somewhere far away is the eternal testimony of its passage through this world. If you've watched this far, it's because you liked this case. Leave a comment saying, "I've watched this far," so I can get to know you and know who really likes the stories here on the channel. Your presence is what keeps the memory of these forgotten lives alive. Check if you are already subscribed to this channel, as our mission is to rescue the narratives buried by time and transform them into deep understanding. Like and share this documentary so that the story of coal never stops being told to future generations. The 24-hour cycle closes, and although the body asks for rest, the mind knows that the whistle will sound again before the soul can cleanse itself. Life in Coal Town is a perpetual dance between the scarcity of now and the abundance of tomorrow, a journey of resistance that transformed the raw mineral into human destiny. You close your eyes, feeling the weight of the mountain still on you, but aware that, in the great book of humanity, your signature was written with the purest and most resilient ink there is, carbon. The smoke from the chimneys rises to the heavens like a silent prayer for the strength of those who dwell in the depths. Tomorrow will bring the same cold, the same mud, and the same risk, but it will also bring the certainty that you are the fundamental piece that prevents the world from plunging into darkness. Silence finally settles, but the heart of the mine keeps beating, waiting for your return to keep the nation's pulse vibrating through darkness and time. Your contribution is the invisible energy that fuels the dreams of millions, and even if the world forgets your name, It can never ignore the light you generated with the sweat of your brow and the strength of your unshakable will. The day ends, destiny is fulfilled, and history, engraved in stone and soot, remains eternal.